Glad you're here for visual art photography tutorials. Today on short exposure, we're going to take a look at focusing during macro photography. Now, in photography, focusing is always very important, but in macro photography, because of the shallow depth of field that you have to work with, it becomes critical. So, today, we're going to take a look at how to focus properly in macro photography to get the most out of your image making. Now, it's not so much about learning how to focus. The fact that I use only manual focus during macro photography works for me. Maybe something else works for you. So focusing is not the difficult part of it. The difficult part is making sure that your plane of focus matches up with your subject. So what exactly is the plane of focus? Well, we're going to show you today what it is, how to set it up, and how to make sure you get the maximum depth of field for your macro photography projects. Now, a lot of it is based on the fact that what we're shooting today is a flat object. Now, if you're shooting something that's round or something that has shape, maybe like a water droplet, sometimes in those cases, the plane of focus maybe isn't so critical. It can be, but it might not be. But when you're shooting something flat, in order that the entire subject is clear from corner to corner, your plane of focus has to be set up properly. So that's what we're going to look at today. But before we get going, I'd like to say a big thank you to all of you who subscribe to the channel. Much appreciated. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and you'll get early updates on all newly uploaded videos. Okay, so today actually we're going to be using, for our subject, we're going to be using a Canadian nickel, a 12-sided Canadian nickel. I happen to like them. They were actually minted between 1942 and 1963. The one we're using today is from 1957. And we're using a coin because a coin has a lot of definition in it, and it's going to show us if we have the entire coin in focus or if parts of it are out of focus. So that's going to be our subject today, a flat Canadian nickel. Let's get started. This variety of coin should be magnetic, so let's test that theory. And there it is 99.9% nickel. And just because we can do this, let's watch it in slow motion. Now that we've had that bit of fun, let's take a practical look at this plane of focus business. So we'll pretend that this black mark down here is your subject, and it's flat, it's horizontal, and the lens should be reflecting the same thing. It should be flat and horizontal as well, so that the subject will be right in line, so that everything will be in focus. You'll have maximum depth of field. Now let's say the subject is not flat and horizontal. Well, things get a little more difficult because now you have to really eyeball the situation. So let's take a look at this situation. Okay? The subject is moved, it's on an angle, and quite often that's going to be the case. So you have to eyeball it with your camera. You just have to sort of try to line it up and make this part of the lens the same orientation as the subject. Okay, so then if you can do that, then you have the right orientation and you'll have maximum depth of field. So there you have your plane of focus. The lens is exactly horizontal, the subject is exactly horizontal, and you're going to have all of it in focus. All of the coin is in focus, all the way around. All of those 12 sides are in focus. Everything's really, really sharp. Now, if your plane of focus is not exactly flat, if it's not 100% horizontal, you can see the lens is not exactly flat to the surface that it's trying to focus on, you're not going to have a completely in focus image. Some parts of it are not going to be quite as sharp as you may want them to be. It'll look something like this. Not everything here is in focus. The bottom will be, okay, pretty sharp down here. but because I tilted the lens, the top is not as sharp, and unbeknownst to me at the time, the lens was not had changed angle as well, so that this side is in focus and this side is way out of focus. So you can see it's so important to have that plane of focus to match up with your subject. Okay, so here's a little tip. If you are going to be photographing on a flat surface and you are using a macro focusing rail, it's going to be really easy to make sure that everything is very, very flat. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take your macro focusing rail and your camera and bring them right down flat onto in this case, a table. Everything's very flat. Then you tighten up your tripod and then bring up your focusing rail. See? That way you're always going to be flat to the surface. And then you can tighten this up and get ready to take your shot. I really hope all of that made some sense to you and comes together to make your macro photography projects a little bit more crisp. Until next time, I'm Ray Scott, reminding you that it's not what you see, it's how you see it. And I'll see you soon.